Reports show that Black women own nearly 2.7 million businesses across the United States, making us the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs nationwide. There's a big but. Despite the impressive numbers and the undeniable impact of Black women-owned businesses, research shows that Black women are generally underfunded when it comes to getting resources for their businesses. However, Goldman Sachs has a 1 Million Black Women program that helps to address these issues and more.
I wanted to create a safe space to have uncomfortable yet transformative conversations that move people, amplifying the voices of those who are underrepresented and who inspire positive change. I'm Tony Williams, and this is Brooklyn Savvy.
Before we get started with our panelistas point, I want to introduce Jessica Taylor. Now, Jessica is the National Director of 1 Million Black Women Initiative, a fabulous program. Let's give her a Savvy clap.
Thank you.
But we always like to get things moving, right? So I've got some questions for us. I've got a panelistas point. Now, Black women, we earn 63 cents on a dollar. Hispanic women earn 65. White women earn 77. So I'm going to ask you first, Jennifer. Do you feel that your work is valued?
I do feel that my work is valued, but it took a little while to get there, and it's like a little trigger question for me, or trigger something in me, because there was that moment when I was at a party, and an in-law's father took me aside and said, how'd you get to know the governor? How'd you get the mayor to pay you so much? And then he asked me a very inappropriate question. Do I blank blank knees?
Ooh.
And then he looked at me and said, oh, that's right. Your daddy knew a lot of people, and he walked away.
Oh, goodness.
So, you know, I've gotten to that point in my life where, yes, I do feel that my work is valued. I feel that people value my worth. But a lot of that often comes also with sponsorship, with people validating you, even though you've been doing the same thing that you've always done.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Now, Maria, what about you?
So I think it depends on the setting, whether my work is valued and who the audience is, right? Who decides it has value and who doesn't. I think my work is valued. I think my work is valuable. I think my contributions are valuable. But depending on the people around you, they kind of decide for you, right? And that doesn't change my outlook, but they, in their head, they create their own narrative.
Right.
You know,
right.
And I think that I know my worth at certain times. There are times that, I'm being honest, right? There are times
No, I agree with you.
where I question, and then there are times where I remind myself. Like, you know, and I think we need to remind ourselves more often. And, you know, I have this little charm that I got almost a year ago. And it kind of helps me. When people drive me crazy, I'm like, no. And
just give it a little rub.
Yeah, for those who don't know what it says badass, right? And so when people start to make me doubt myself, I'm like, oh, no. Don't let them get in your head.
Oh, that's
Don't
right.
let them get in your head. And then I kind of reset.
Excellent. So what about you, Ms. Bing?
Do I think my work has value? Absolutely. I agree with Maria that it depends on the context whether others agree with me or not. And I've done a lot of work to get to the point of recognizing that I am worth it.
How did you get there? I'm just curious.
Well,
yeah.
Therapy, great coaching, and great mentorship. And also trying things and then discovering that it works. Because a lot of times, the only way to grow, to build confidence, is to build skills. And you can't build skills if you stay in your comfort zone. So if you try something new, you see that it works. And what I have found is that the more I have come to understand my worth, the more others value my worth.
I find it interesting, the therapy part. If you wouldn't mind just unpacking that a little bit in terms of, you don't have to tell us what happened at the session, but how did that help you?
Well, What therapy does is it helps you to understand. Well, let me back up for a second, because I work with a lot of executives in a coaching and consulting role, and sometimes people will say to me, "Oh, this feels therapeutic," and I said, "No, I'm not doing therapy. I can help you move from point A to point B, but I can't help you understand why you're at point A. Therapy helps you understand why you're at point A. Yes. Why is it that I'm holding myself back? What are the triggers, or what are the experiences that I may have had along the way from childhood till present that have informed the beliefs that I have."
Wow.
And so then you reframe your beliefs about self, about others, and the world.
That's called having a breakthrough.
Yes, it is.
It's a real breakthrough moment. Now, Jessica, who's kind of in the thick of this. Now, I'm going to tell you, your work has value, right? Yeah. But talk to us about how you feel about that, and then we're going to dig into this project, this initiative that you are running.
So I definitely feel that my work is being valued, although I will say, just generally speaking, particularly as a Black woman, we always have to make the case. No matter what room we enter, you always have to be ready to kind of make the pitch or to explain, because I think the automatic assumption of other folks in that room is that maybe you haven't achieved what you've already achieved, or they assume that you've done less than you've done. So there's always, and I have a lot of interactions with people where I see in their mind when they realize, oh, she's actually doing that, right? You can actually physically see it in their faces.
Right.
Where they're putting two and two together, and they're like, oh, okay, right? But they didn't have that, they didn't believe that of me when I first walked in. So it's probably going to be, and I'm kind of coming to this realization in my career, that it's probably going to be something that I always have to navigate, right? You're always going to have to communicate your value. And then I'll say personally, we were just talking just about kids and family before the show. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old at home. And for me, in becoming a mother, I actually now feel like that badass in a whole nother way. Because I recognize that not only am I doing my job, but I'm raising these kids, and I gave birth to 3 kids. Like, there's nothing
while
anybody
doing
can
that
tell
job.
me.
While doing that job.
So it's like there's nothing anyone can really tell me. And so I'm starting to kind of wear that, a little bit of that chip on my shoulder. Of course, always staying humble and all of those things. But, there's some rooms where you have to walk in with a chip on your shoulder.
Wow.
And that's okay. Yeah. And I'm getting okay with that swag, if you will, and having to have that and lean into that.
Can I just, because you said, I still stay humble. I have a mentor who happens to be a white man. He says, nobody wants a humble doctor.
Right.
Nobody wants a humble pilot.
Right.
So, I think as Black people, we've been taught, and being humble has saved our lives, right?
Right.
But I don't think that it's about being humble. I think it's about being confident and knowing your worth. Yeah.
No, yeah. I would agree. Yeah.
We're the only people expected to be humble.
Yeah.
Nobody else is expected. It's expected of us.
That's right.
Well, we're going to get into that soon. Now, talk to us about this wonderful initiative that you are now leading nationally. It's 1 million Black women.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
It is. And there's a 10 billion in there somewhere.
That's right.
Talk to us about what that is, because it is very exciting. Very exciting.
So 2 years ago, Goldman Sachs announced a $10 billion commitment to invest in the lives of at least 1 million Black women by 2030. And alongside the $10 billion of investment capital, we also committed $100 million of philanthropic support. And this initiative kind of came on the back of a seminal piece of research that came out of our Goldman Sachs kind of research team called Black Womenomics, which said a host of things, and you all should go and Google it and find it online. But number one, Black women are absolutely foundational to our communities and to our economy. They have historically been underinvested in, which we all know. And that 3, by the way, there's a 90% racial wealth gap between your median Black household income and your median white income. And that racial wealth gap is mostly driven by an earnings gap. And so with that research, Goldman said, let's do something about that. And by the way, let's not just do a philanthropic program. Nothing wrong with philanthropic dollars. But what we're doing with 1 million Black women is making the point that Black women are good investments, right? If you can intentionally invest in Black women, then you can help grow GDP and you can help create jobs, period.
Now, Jennifer, you did some work because you said something about Black women being foundational. And because this program is about appreciating who we are, can you speak to why we are foundational in the work that you've done?
So I always center on a quote by Anna Julia Cooper, the first Black woman to earn a PhD from the University of Sorbonne. I heard this quote in 2008 when I dropped my niece off with my sister and her husband at Spelman College. The quote is, "Only the Black woman can say when and where I enter, in the quiet, undisputed dignity of my womanhood, without suing or special patronage. Then and there, the whole race enters with me." What Dr. Cooper was helping us to appreciate is that the Black woman, despite being, the lowest on the totem pole, if you will, when you think about race and racism and sexism and misogyny, who is the polar opposite of the white male? The Black woman. So, she then, is the one who experiences, despite her education, despite her contributions, she is paid on average less than white women, less than white men, less than Black men. She is, despite having, earned the most degrees, when you look at any segment of our society. And she is the one who is the primary breadwinner in her household. So I share all of this about the Black woman because what I want us to appreciate is that it is intentional. It's not just by happenstance that the Black woman is not valued and her worth is not seen as to be as significant. Because think about this. If she's experiencing higher debt and she's paid lower wages and she is essentially, the primary breadwinner, often the sole breadwinner in her household, what's going to result? 1 in 3 Black children, compared to less than 1 in 10 white children, will grow up living in poverty. And so the cycle continues.
I'm real impressed with your program because it's solutions oriented. Talk to us about what one can expect if you are a part of the 1 Million Black Women Initiative.
Right. And so one of the things that I'm really focused on, in my seat is making sure people understand what that means, right? What the initiative is actually doing. And so on the philanthropic side, and Tony, you're very familiar with some of the work we're doing on that side, we have kind of 2 primary initiatives where, on the one hand, one is called Black in Business, where we have kind of a best-in-class, rigorous education program for Black women solopreneurs. And we did this because, the data were clear. Most Black businesses, about 96%, are sole proprietors. So just them and their business, no other full-time employees. And then more than half of those businesses are led by Black women. So at Goldman Sachs and within the foundation, we had other small business education programs for business owners across kind of demographic group, but none focused on sole proprietors. And so we realized that we were missing a large chunk of Black women by not specifically targeting sole proprietors. So that was Black in Business, and got to know you, Tony, through that.
It's a fantastic program, and we'll go into the weeds in that shortly, yes.
And then on the philanthropic side, we launched Black Women Impact Grants, which was an initiative to give unencumbered grant funding to nonprofits primarily led by Black women, but really focused on serving Black women and Black girls. And so we have a cohort of 50 nonprofit leaders and nonprofits that are doing that work. Now, on the investment side, this is where we've done a lot of really great work. We've gotten $2.3 billion already out the door against that $10 billion target. And we are doing investing across several different teams within Goldman Sachs. One, think of our urban investment group. They have historically done a lot of affordable housing investments in a lot of affordable housing units. And so with the 1 Million Black Women lens, they're continuing that work, but really doubling down on areas where, there are a lot of Black people and there are a lot of women, right? Making sure that there's affordable housing. right? We know that a lot of Black women deal with very low quality housing, right? And housing that's not affordable. How do we give them a home and help to invest in that? We also are doing work taking equity stakes in tech-enabled businesses led by Black women. So I'm thinking of Care Academy, which is a business based out of Boston, led by an amazing woman, Helen. And basically, she uses her tech platform to train and upskill Black women in the home healthcare industry, an industry that is dominated by Black women, and an industry that has historically kind of low wages, right? So how do you train these women quickly at scale, as well as allow them to upskill so they can move up in that career track? And so when you think about that $10 billion, you should think about, housing, those housing investments that we're doing. You should think about the equity investments that we're doing in, Black-run businesses, right? You should think about, we partnered with the City of New York in the New York City Small Business Opportunity Fund. It's a $75 million fund, I think the largest of its kind in the city, to support small businesses, particularly of color and women and immigrant businesses in the city, to help them access capital. So those are the types of projects that we're investing in that we know are going to really target and help empower Black women.
Can I just quickly say, one of the values of what you're doing is because you're putting money where money typically does not go. There is very little investment in Black persons, their businesses, whether they be male or female, and especially for women. So the fact that Goldman Sachs has stepped up and said, we see this, we recognize in part what is holding women back, Black women, from getting ahead, and we're making a commitment, it's tremendous.
And what do women walk away from the program having accomplished?
Well, I can kind of speak just a little bit about it, because I just think it has transformed my life in a weird way.
So in full disclosure,
in full disclosure, I'm in the Black in Business program. Yes. And it's helped me think that it's possible, right? I mean, I've been doing this program now for the last 12 or so years out of my own pocket and money that I might be able to get from a corporate supporter. But it's actually teaching you how to build the business. How do you do that? And then we have this ecosystem of about 150 other Black women that are engaged in this program, which is also a help. And the faculty is Black, and the business advisors. I mean, it's, there are times when, Black people sometimes don't want to do business with Black people. But this is changing that. It's shifting that kind of narrative and consciousness that we can have because of the internalization of whatever, But I just find it, it's very eye-opening. I have an advisor, I have a coach, one-on-one. I have an ally, I have a growth group. There's so many supports. I mean, I'm almost afraid to talk about it. It's so good, but it is really, I feel that when we went there for the training, I feel honored. And I didn't realize how, as Black women, sometimes we go into spaces and we don't feel honored. I said, why is this so unusual?
They treat me so well.
Right, yes. They treat us so good. So anyway, I just said a whole lot there, but it's really how I honestly feel, and I think many of the women, it's a little overwhelming at times because there's so much coming at us, and business is no joke, and starting something is very, very serious. And there are moments of, can I really get all this done? And then there's also the issue of the underinvestment in our businesses, the capital. Because everybody's wondering, well, how can I actually do this? I don't have the money. I'm a one-woman show. Those things come up.
Right.
But the idea.
But solutions to those.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Well, I'm hoping that what you're getting to also is that when the question comes up, how do I get the capital? That there are solutions.
Right.
Yeah.
And the capital is a big piece. So the program's an education program, right? So there's no kind of promise of capital as a result of having gone through the program. And everything that you just described, it's nice just hearing you kind of give that feedback, because we were very intentional. It was
you
myself,
feel it.
Well,
I
it was
feel the
myself
intention.
And then the team. We have a huge team of people that pay attention to every detail of the experience. And it really is Goldman Sachs rolling out the red carpet, opening its doors for Black women entrepreneurs. And we wanted people to feel that every minute of their experience while
That
at the
value.
program. That value.
So
That's
how would-
exactly what it is.
I'm sorry. How would somebody who's interested get into the program?
That's right. So we will be opening applications next spring, and it's a 10-minute online application.
And what do you look for in a
So
candidate?
I think eligibility criteria: at least $25,000 in revenues.
Okay.
Just yourself as a business owner in the business, and have been operating, at least a year. Okay. And so what we've really kind of focused on in terms of what we look for is someone who, yes, you're a solopreneur, and actually most of the businesses started the company in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And so it's important that even though your business may be nascent or recently started, that you have a vision for it.
Right.
And you have an idea of where you want to take it.
Right.
I remember when I first interviewed women for our very first cohort, spent a lot of time in the interviews actually convincing the women that they had businesses. Because a lot of them said, I've been doing this on the side.
Right.
Does this qualify? It's like, it qualifies. It qualifies. You're a business owner.
Right.
Yes.
That's value.
Yes.
Is what
And I
matters.
learned in those interviews, because so we're going to have to
Yes. The self-worth.
build up.
Yes.
Just as much as we educate, right, through the curriculum. And so we've been very intentional on that point too with our partners, in trying to kind of quiet the noise in some people's heads that are telling them that they're not really a business owner or they can't really do this.
That's the therapy piece, Lisa.
Right,
You know
right.
That's
Well,
it.
right. Well, there's some therapy there, and there's also some coaching. That's
right.
Yeah, the coaching
Absolutely.
piece.
So
yeah,
I'm
because
just going to
where
throw
they-
the question out there because I need to know. We saw in 2020 the world lean in. Look at the Black community. Look at racism. How persistent it has been, how overt it has been, and companies responded. Now we're beginning to see that some didn't act on the promises. Goldman Sachs has acted. We're seeing that some are retreating. And so for me, the burning question is, this is great. This is nice. What happens when the money's all expended?
Right.
What happens when you've hit that 1 million woman mark?
Right.
Is this going away? How is Goldman Sachs going to define success
Right.
and value?
And sustain.
Beyond, the 1 million right now is success, I guess.
And,
Yeah,
and let me
but
tell you,
beyond.
we're on track, right? We got 2.3 billion out the door on the investment side, 23 million out the door on the philanthropic side, and we've reached about 200,000 women. So we're on track, but we have to, it's really on me and the rest of the teams to really make sure and continue to be intentional around the strategy to do that. You don't just do it by accident.
Right.
Because you did it by accident, you wouldn't need a 1 million Black women initiative, right? So it's continuing to be focused on just achieving the spend and the reach goals, first and foremost, being just over 2 years in. The other thing I'll say is, I've been at Goldman, almost a decade now. And prior to assuming the role as National Director of 1 Million Black Women, just about 3 months ago, prior to that, I ran our 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative, another education program for small businesses. That program we launched in 2009. We've now reached 14,000 businesses across the country. And then before that program, we had 10,000 Women, which was focused on women entrepreneurs in emerging economies. And that program launched in 2008. And now we've democratized that curriculum and put it on Coursera. So you can just Google 10,000 women and anybody can take the curriculum. So one of the things that I appreciate about where I work is that when we make a commitment, we deliver on that commitment. And we find an intervention that we've tested, we find the best partners to work with on that intervention, and we work it over time. When we first launched 10,000 Small Businesses, we're serving cohorts of 30 to 40 businesses at a time. We first partnered with LaGuardia Community College here in New York City. Folks said, who are you going to reach? How are you going to reach 10,000? You're serving 30 to 40 at a time. 3 cohorts a year, it's 100 businesses a year. How are you going to do it? We found new partners across the country. We expanded the network. But the reason why we wanted to be high touch was because we wanted real impact.
Right.
You can't just start day one and get 10,000. 10,000 who did what?
Right.
10,000 who, how are they going to grow, right? You really have to be intentional, and that takes time. And so I guess I'm saying I really wouldn't be here if this was just show. And I wouldn't have accepted the job.
Right. But we also know, and we've seen this
Yeah.
across the country, we've seen it in other parts of the world. Outputs versus outcomes, using
That's right.
old language, right?
That's
and
right.
so, very often people will be able to say, well, we served 10,000 people. But did you have impact?
That's exactly right.
And did it change their lives
It needs
materially,
to be,
sustainably?
It needs to be deeper than that. So one of the things, let's just take Black in business
Right,
as
'cause
an example.
right.
So let me even back up. So I love your questions because this is the meat of it, right? One of the first things that I've done in the 3 months in this seat is really beginning to understand, how have we been tracking over the last 2.5 years, our investments and the outcomes of those investments and the nonprofit partners, and kind of taking stock of where we are, and then maybe finding the gaps. And we actually just hired someone to kind of come in and really take that on more holistically.
Like an impact officer.
Right,
Impact
who's
officer.
literally
Right.
there to measure.
Right.
That is like
Impact.
what they do 24/7.
Perfect,
Right? So the
perfect.
firm
Right.
has put resources there to make that happen. So that's one. And then let's look at Black in business as an example. So you, Tony, took a survey when
Right.
you got into the program that asked you, I don't know, we had some 75
We take a
questions or
survey
something.
after everything.
right. So right.
Yes.
We measure everything.
Everything is survey.
But you took a baseline
Right.
survey on
Yes.
revenues, jobs, right? We had about 70 questions likely in that survey. You're going to take that survey again at graduation, again at 6 months after graduation. Then we're going to keep hounding you even after that. And all that with the goal is to be able to say, not only did we serve Tony back in 2023, but we've now been able to track and see that she's grown her revenues, she's hired someone.
And there's
Right.
another piece to that too, which is what we'll end up with is an action plan, which helps us attract investment, helps us make the case for investment, because that's where a lot of us get caught. Like they said, you have to know your business to be able to go out and raise funds for your business.
Oftentimes, they're trying to do too much at once.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes.
And one of those things is always a nonprofit.
Yes.
Right? And did we talk about this?
Right, because I was like, should I be a nonprofit? No, you shouldn't be a nonprofit.
Have a nonprofit, but make some money first. Right?
Yes.
Run your business. It's okay to actually be profit oriented.
Yes, that's right.
And make money, and as a result of that, have the residual impact of that, then come back to your community.
That's right. That's right.
But there's definitely a feeling amongst the Black women that we've served
That
It's
we
like,
have
well,
to
nonprofit,
give that. Yes,
nonprofit.
yes.
Well, you got to
Well,
make
we
the money
gotta
first.
well,
Profit is not a dirty word.
No, it is
It's
not.
right.
But this is wonderful. We're going to have you back. 'Cause
I love it.
we're not
I love
finished.
it.
We
I
are
love
not
it.
finished
Part
with
two.
you yet. We
Part
are not
two.
finished. So Jessica, thank you. And
Thank
thank
you,
you so
Tony.
much for the work that you are doing and how intentional you are about it and your integrity around it, making that difference. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
joining.
having me. Appreciate it.
Certainly. And we will see you next time on Brooklyn Savvy.